Thanks for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Wendy Griffith. The search for additional suspects after a deadly terrorist attack kills at least 15 people in New Orleans. The suspect who carried out the attack said to be inspired by ISIS, and we'll hear why we can expect more terror attacks in the future. The terrible abuse hostages have suffered at the hands of Hamas, detailed in a new report from Israel based on testimony of former hostages who were held in Gaza. Despite the ravages of war, key parts of Israel are not only surviving but thriving. We'll bring you a look at the Jewish state's success in high tech. And evangelism, healing, discipleship, and more. We'll bring you a look at CBN's 30 years of ministry to the people of Asia. These stories and more today on NewsWatch.
This is CBN News Watch.
And we begin with the FBI's search for additional suspects in the New Year's Day terrorist attack in New Orleans. The early morning rampage took the lives of at least 15 people, including a former college football player and a young single mother. Federal agents are also looking into whether the explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas is connected. Lori Johnson has more.
The FBI is asking for the public's help to find anyone who was involved with the man who drove a rented pickup truck through a crowd of New Year's Eve revelers. The truck, traveling at a high rate of speed and carrying the ISIS flag, barreled down Canal and Bourbon Streets at 3:15 a.m.
We have dozens of people that got hit by this car.
The suspect was wearing body armor and firing an AR-style rifle out of the truck, leaving 3 blocks of carnage, killing 15 people and injuring dozens more.
We ran one way, so like about 5 feet away from the curb, and we ran into the bar to be protected by the little divot.
He then crashed the truck, stepped out, and opened fire, wounding 2 police officers before being shot and killed. He's identified as 42-year-old Samsud Dim Jabbar, a U.S.-born citizen and Army veteran who lived in Houston, Texas.
The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill.
Police found multiple homemade pipe bombs packed with nails inside the truck. A fire at an Airbnb near Bourbon Street yesterday morning is now reportedly being linked to Jabbar. Officials say it appears explosive devices associated with the attack were made at the property.
Those people who don't believe in objective evil, all you have to do is look at what happened in our city early this morning.
Officials say the normal steel barricades were not in place because they were being replaced in time for the Super Bowl next month. Vehicles were placed as blockades, but there were gaps.
We had barriers there, we had officers there, and they still got around. So we did indeed have a plan, but the terrorists defeated it.
City officials say the new barriers should have been there.
This construction should have happened much earlier, and everything really should have been ready and in place, fixed, repaired, ready to go now.
Much of the revelers were in town for college football's Sugar Bowl, scheduled for last night. Officials postponed the game until later today. Meanwhile, 600 miles to the west, investigators are questioning whether a deadly blast in Las Vegas is linked to the New Orleans attack. A Tesla Cybertruck exploded in front of the Trump Hotel, killing the driver and injuring 7 others. The bed of the truck was filled with gas canisters, camping fuel, and fireworks. The same app was used to rent both the Las Vegas and the New Orleans vehicles. Officials are treating it as a possible act of terrorism. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Lori. Our senior international reporter Gary Lane is here with us now. He's also the host of The Global Lane on the CBN News Channel, and he's followed radical Islam for decades. Gary, thanks so much for being with us.
Glad to be here with you, Wendy.
It's a sad way to start the new year.
It is.
But Gary, hasn't the FBI been warning us about these possible terrorist attacks for a while now?
Yeah, before Congress, our FBI Director Wray warned Congress back in January, then again last spring. And then before the October 7th anniversary, he warned that there could be an attack, and then again before the election. And so this comes as no surprise to the FBI. They said if something big was going to happen, and guess what? It did happen, Wendy, and more is probably coming.
Gary, are we dealing with the possibility of sleeper cells here in the U.S., and is this a result of our open borders?
Well, we've had an open border now for 4 years, and we've had over 300 people on the FBI terrorism watch list that we know have crossed the border. Last summer, in June, NBC reported that 150 people were arrested as a result of a ISIS terrorist smuggling ring, and 50 got away. They have no idea where those 50 are. That was just one incident. Then also in June, there were 5 members of ISIS, Tajiks, people from Tajikistan, that were arrested in L.A., New York, and elsewhere in the United States. So we know that they're here. There are sleeper cells here, ISIS agents, others who want to do harm to Americans.
And of course, this guy in New Orleans was born in Texas. He was a member of our military. So, he didn't obviously benefit from the open border because he was already here, but possibly part of the sleeper cell.
Well, he might have been radicalized. He served in Afghanistan for almost a year, so he may have been radicalized there. Who knows what influence the Taliban and others had on him while he was serving in Afghanistan? But he saw the war, the devastation there, people killed. That may have had a part of it as well.
So do you think we're going to be seeing more of these terrorist attacks as we go into 2025?
Definitely, because we know that there are people who have gotten away, who've crossed our southern border, maybe even the Canadian border. The FBI can't track them all, but there are people that have entered the U.S. that are at least people of interest, persons of interest. And so that does not bode well for the future.
And what about the role, what role does the war in Gaza and Iran play in all of this?
That has radicalized people here in the United States. Also, it has an incentive, especially for Iran. Let's not count out Iran in all of this. Iran already has said they want to kill President Trump. Because of his actions against Iran. They know that more is coming. Their economy is in dire straits right now. So this could be the caged tiger striking back.
And what do you make, Gary, of the fact that there was this Cybertruck explosion outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas at almost the same time this is happening in New Orleans?
Well, the FBI is investigating to see if that is connected. But keep in mind, Wendy, this is not by accident. A Tesla vehicle? Who owns Tesla? Elon Musk. Who is ahead of Doge? Who is close to Donald Trump right now? The wealthiest man in the world. Where did the incident occur? The Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. It's definitely a message that is being sent there.
Yeah, and as believers, we need to pray for our country like never before right now.
Never before right now, and pray for the families of the victims from New Orleans.
Oh, absolutely.
And the injured.
So tragic, so tragic. Thank you, Gary. All right, well, still ahead in Israel as hostage families plead with the government for a ceasefire. A new report explains the terrible abuse hostages have suffered while being held captive by Hamas. We'll bring you that story when we come back. Welcome back. A new report details the abuse hostages have suffered at the hands of Hamas. And the report is based on testimony of former hostages who were held in Gaza. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story from Jerusalem.
Israel's health ministry submitted a report to the United Nations this week documenting the testimony that comes from former hostages about the physical, sexual, and psychological abuse they suffered in Gaza. Women, men, and children say the abuse included beatings, isolation, deprivation of food and water, branding, hair pulling, and sexual assault. Natan Sharansky, who spent 9 years in Soviet prison for spreading the truth about human rights abuses in the former Soviet Union, told CBN News the report exposes the hypocrisy in the world's thinking.
Women's organizations who are not ready to accept that if rapists are from the oppressed and the raped women are oppressors, then it's not a crime in their eyes.
Sharansky says the report is hard to read.
It can remind people why our struggle is so justified and why we are not ready to stop the struggle as long as our hostages are in their hands and as long as our security is not guaranteed.
In the negotiations to free the remaining hostages, Hamas is demanding a week-long ceasefire and several days into it says it will release a partial list of hostages still in Gaza. Israel's defense minister threatens more war if Hamas doesn't start freeing hostages soon.
The IDF will intensify and strengthen its activities against the nests of terrorism in Gaza until the hostages are released and Hamas is eliminated.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Julie. Still ahead, even throughout the ravages of war, Israel remains a leader in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, food technology, defense technology, and more. We'll bring you that incredible story when we come back. After the October 7th Hamas attacks, Israel faced a war for survival on 7 fronts. The battles put enormous pressure on Israel's economy. Yet one leading expert says the Jewish state has not only been surviving in some areas, it's actually been thriving. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us that story from Jerusalem.
Fighting for survival is expensive.
So all of this costs money. And there are also impacts on certain parts of the Israeli economy, such as the construction, agriculture, where foreign workers, in particular Palestinians, have played a large role. They're now hard to get, and there is a shortage of labor. And in particular, tourism is challenging because of the travel schedules of flights.
That sector serves as one of Israel's most important economic engines. After the COVID shutdown, it boomed for nearly 2 years before the war brought tourism to a standstill. There is good news, though, thanks to the genius of Israel.
And the good news is that the major industry here in Israel, as you know, because we spend a lot of time talking about it, is high technology.
Known as the startup nation, high tech is responsible for more than half of Israeli exports, representing almost 20% of the country's gross domestic product.
The tech area is still very, very strong. We have amazing companies who lead the world in cybersecurity and artificial intelligence and food technology, in defense technology, in the cloud, in alternative mobility and energy. And what's remarkable is that this year, already in 2024, in the midst of war, the investment dollars that are coming into the Israel tech scene have gone dramatically up, about 40% from last year, the second half. And that's, by the way, leading the world in terms of an uptick. The U.S. is doing well. Israel's doing better.
Medved explains the origin of Israel's success.
Its roots are in the Bible. Its roots are in prophecy. And it's prophecy coming true. When you realize that the Jewish people, the indigenous people of this land, have come home after 2,000 years of wandering, have ingathered the exiles.
He describes why this biblical mission drives Israel.
We're a significant country, one of the strongest countries in the world in terms of our ability to defend ourselves, leading the world in many areas of technology, helping to cure cancer, helping to feed the planet, because we view our destiny and our mission is not just to survive. Survival's critical, but we need to contribute to the world. We need to build the world. We need to help fix things. It's called tikkun olam.
It's the same kind of resilience that helped Jews survive the Holocaust.
The dry bones from the prophecy of Ezekiel came up, and we succeeded. But we didn't just succeed to survive. We've succeeded in building a beautiful country, a country which is not just fun and great food and beautiful beaches and incredible infrastructure, but a country on the cutting edge of building the future, a country that believes in the future.
That belief in the future helps Medved look beyond immediate threats to take the long view of Israel's destiny.
We are a people who has suffered a great deal over thousands of years, and yet we're still here. A lot of our enemies from thousands of years ago, they're gone. There's no memory of them. And if you want a little prediction, organizations like Hamas, whose purpose is to destroy the Jewish people, well, I've got some advice for them. A lot of people have tried, better people than you, and they've all failed. You are going to fail, and there's going to be no memory of this kind of an organization in 1,000 years from now.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Coming up, evangelism, healing, and discipleship. We'll bring you a look at CBN's 30 years of ministering to people throughout Asia when we come back. Well, you might not know this, but in Asia, CBN has been spreading the gospel since 1994. Now, in its 30th year, CBN Asia is succeeding far beyond expectations. Lucille Toulousan shares their story.
A spectacular and powerful worship concert beyond measure marked CBN Asia's 30th anniversary. Christian artist and longtime CBN supporter Gary Valenciano reminisced about the early days.
When I look back now, from what was a dream that I know was put in the hearts of like Pat Robertson and Gordon, it was from what was instilled in their hearts. They pursued it. And now it's 30 years later, and here we are. I cannot even begin to count the number of lives that have been moved, that have been saved eternally.
In 1994, CBN launched a media campaign, The Answer, to respond to the Filipinos' deepest questions about life, purpose, and faith. More than 13 million viewers responded, and Gordon Robertson took up the mission began by his father, Pat Robertson, by establishing CBN Asia.
Now, the scripture that inspired me, that just seemed to be really outlandish, was Isaiah 41. Verse 15, behold, I will make you into a new threshing sledge with sharp teeth. The image that came to my mind was one of those huge grain harvesting machines that goes through the field and can literally handle acres in moments. God's going to make CBN Asia, into this great harvesting machine.
Thus, the 700 Club Asia, a Filipino version of the program, was launched with a goal to proclaim Christ and transform lives. CBN Asia advanced God's agenda through its other ministries such as Operation Blessing, Superbook, the 24/7 Prayer Center, and the Asian Center for Missions that trained and deployed missionaries. During the pandemic, with most everything locked down, God opened up more ministries here.
Those were the times that we were very innovative. We started online ministry. We did not replay shows. That period also led us to create Reverb Worship, which is our music label and music arm of CBN Asia.
Along with its daily devotional app, CBN Asia is also conducting online Bible studies for its viewers. That is being led by its TV hosts.
My prayer is that really more of our audience do not just watch on TV, but really go to church, get baptized, get discipled, and grow in the Lord.
True to its calling, CBN Asia has expanded beyond its borders by mentoring other regional centers, expanding Superbook to Mongolia and Japan, while also providing help for Ukrainian refugees, earthquake survivors in Turkey and Taiwan, typhoon survivors in Guam, and terror victims in Israel. The high point of the concert came when CBN Asia's Peter Kairos shared the gospel and prayed for the audience. Many testify they experienced God's miracles that night. That included Abby de la Cruz. In 2022, an X-ray showed nodules in her lungs, and this year they found a lump in her neck.
The Lord is healing someone with lumps on your lungs. They show growth on your lungs. The Lord is removing that.
I realized the Lord is healing me. When I got the result of my laboratory tests, my lungs are clear and the lumps are gone.
As we look back on 30 years in God's faithfulness, He gave us every success. He constantly watched over us to make sure that we would be on the right path and the right path to becoming the threshing sledge that He wanted us to be.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Manila.
Thank you so much, Lucille, my good friend in the Philippines. I love when I get to go over there. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, let us know what you think about the stories you've seen today. You can email us at newswatch@cbn.com or reach out on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day. God bless.